Yeah, sure. My mom looked tired enough to sleep for a week, but I knew she wasn't going to get any rest. I got out of Jeffrey's bed for the big move upstairs. I fell back asleep in a chair by the window of the new room. My mom spent a few hours lying on the cot they had brought in, but I really didn't think you could sleep say she slept. Every hour or so, some medical person or another came in to take Jeffrey's temperature or attach a new bag to his IV or do something that would ruin our rest. At 2 a.m., my mom walked out of the room. I wanted to know what was going on. So, after a couple minutes, I followed her. I found her sitting in the hallway, leaning back on the wall with her knees to her chest, holding a cup of coffee that must have come from a little coin operated machine that was out there. I plopped down next to her. Hey, Mom, how are you? I'm fine, Stephen. I was really worried about your brother last night, but it looks like this is just going to be what life is like for a while. Mom, how long is all this going to last? They're going to run some tests next week. If he's cancer free by then, he'll still be in treatment for a few years. Then who knows? After 5 years without cancer, he should be normal, be totally normal. Mom, what if he's not cancer free next week? I don't know, Stephen. I just don't know. By the way, I'm sorry we ruined your night last night. Mom, forget it. It was fine. Oh, really? Fine, was it? Should I storm into your graduation wearing sweats too? Yeah, it would be pretty cool. Maybe you could have your hair up in curlers for extra style points. I might be able to swing that, Stevie. How about some flip-flops on my feet? Flip-flops on my feet. Excellent, Mom. That would be excellent. Right there in the hallway, I put my head in her lap. She stroked my hair for a while, and then she sent me back into the room. Get some sleep, pal. At about 5 in the morning, my dad came into the room and shook me awake. I guess my mom had gotten through to him by phone at some point. He put a finger over his lips so I wouldn't make noise to wake Jeffrey. But, of course, I was about to, right when I was about to tiptoe our room, the lady came crashing in with a giant breakfast cart. So we had this odd little family conference while Jeffrey attempted to choke down some food. My parents spent a few minutes looking at Jeffrey's hospital chart, working out the details of what needed to be done if my mom and Jeffrey were going to Philadelphia for a week, and went out into the hall to argue about something. I had a little while alone with Jeffrey. He looked really exhausted, but his fever was gone and he was much more alert mentally and than he'd been the night before. He asked me about my dance. Did you have fun? Did you dance a lot? Did Renee Albert kiss you? Did it feel gross? Get out of here, you little nutball. I'm telling you, I have zero chance of kissing Renee Albert. Zero, zilch, nada. So who did you kiss? Nobody. I was just standing around with my friends when you came to get me. Did I ruin your night? Mom asked me that too, Jeffrey. You didn't ruin my night. It was ruined from the start. You had a worse night than I did, anyway. Oh, well, at least you didn't have to kiss anybody. Yes, Jeffrey, that's a big comfort to me. My parents came back in, and I started to get up to leave. Jeffrey asked me for a hug, and I gave him one. Take care, Jeffy. I'll see you soon, right? Just remember not to throw food at the nurses. I don't want to get any complaint calls, okay? Stevie, I don't throw food at. Oh, that was a joke. Right. Yup, buddy boy, it was a joke. But seriously, no kissing the nurses on their lips either. It messes up their makeup. Ew. It was about 7 a.m. when my dad and I got home. I somehow made it to my bed and collapsed into a near coma that lasted until I got too hungry to sleep through lunchtime. It was probably noon or so when I made it to the kitchen. My dad was sitting there, looking stubbly and worn out, eating a bagel without much expression on his face. He gave me a tiny nod that was almost businesslike, totally neutral, like he wasn't really seeing me. I got out cereal and milk, and I was so quiet. It was so quiet between us that I was getting grossed out by the distinct sounds of our food chewing processes. As soon as I finished, I went downstairs to play the drums. I played the drums and play the drums and play the drums. I played all the way through the basic rudiments and then did all my lessons pages for the week. Then I put 5 CDs in the changer behind the drums, put on my headphones, pressed shuffle, and played along with at least 10 really loud metal songs in a row without stopping. I looked up at the middle of Zeppelin drum solo. My dad was sitting up on the beat up old couch about 8 feet from the front of my bass drum. Because he startled me pretty badly, and because I figured he was probably about 43% deaf if he hadn't been sitting there a while, I jumped up and whipped off the headphones. Hi, Dad. I just got a call from your mom. They're taking Jeffrey to Philadelphia in about 2 hours. She wants us to get his stuff together for him. Do you know what toys and clothes he likes? Can you help me? My dad looked ashamed, like he'd been asking me to steal him a bottle of Jack Daniels or something. Sure, Dad. Hey, you've been down here playing for a while. Are you all right? I couldn't believe my father was just now noticing me and that I might be upset about my brother's situation. I'm fine, Dad. Oh, your mother thought you seemed upset at the emergency room when they put the tubes in. Dad, they didn't put tubes in. They stabbed him in the chest. They stabbed him. I was stunned by what was happening next. Although I had to admit I was becoming pretty common occurrence, I started to cry. Once I started to cry, I couldn't stop. My dad wasn't necessarily going to win Teddy Bear Society Father of the Year award, but for the first time in weeks, he reacted. He put his arm around my shoulders and sort of squeezed me in. We must have stayed like that for a good 20 minutes until I couldn't postpone blowing my nose anymore. I picked up my head off my dad, walked over to the other end of the sofa, got a tissue, and blew my nose. Then I sat right back down next to him. We stared at each other without having any concept of what to say, do or say next. My dad finally broke the silence with an old family punchline. So how about them Knicks? We chuckled awkwardly, but at least this was a chuckle. Then we went upstairs and packed up Jeffrey's stuff. On the drive over to the hospital, I had an odd realization. This was the first time in weeks that I had laughed with each member of my family within a 24-hour period. At the hospital, Jeffrey was looking fairly worried. My mom was out in the hall arguing with the doctors in Philly on her cell phone. My dad stayed to talk with her, and I went right to my brother. Hey, Jeffy, how you feeling? I'm okay. Had oatmeal for breakfast, but it wasn't as good as yours. I'm scared. What are you scared about? Mom said they might have to do another bone marrow chant tomorrow. It was supposed to be next time, but now it's tomorrow. That bone marrow hurts, and it might still be very sick if they give it to me early. They say they would have to do in a month if all the bad blasts should be gone. But what if they aren't gone yet? They have to give me more throat medicine. That's not fair. Jeffy, I'm sure the doctors know what they're doing. They wouldn't do the bone marrow test early unless they thought it would be okay. But it might not be okay, and that might be really, really not. Well, buddy, you're in luck. Check out what I brought you. With a flourish, I pulled his favorite Rescue Heroes action figure out of his bag. Look, it's Matt Medic. He's here to protect you. Matt Medic, I'm scared. Don't be frightened, young man. He always loved it when I pretended to be one of his toys. And Matt Medic was perfect for the occasion. He carried a huge plastic paramedic pack and a giant gun-like thing that we always pretended was some kind of vaccine syringe. But what if I'm still very sick? Well, son, just concentrate on Matt Medic Shot Shooter. It's full of magic anti-blast gas guaranteed to save your bone marrow. Here you go. And I used Matt Medic to give Jeffrey a shot. That ought to do it. Just remember, you never have to worry when Matt Medic's on the job. And another thing, don't kiss the nurses. It gets them in trouble. My parents came into the room then, and they had their whole obligatory hugs and farewell scene. It was fairly touching, all things considered. We s- we said we'd be back together again soon, and that everything would be fine. And at that moment, everyone in the family was united toward a common goal of getting Jeffrey well. The last thing I said to Jeffrey was, "I'll see you in no time, pal. Just remember to listen to Matt Medic, and there will be no trouble." As things would turn out, though, there would be a lot more both time and trouble before we were all in one room again.